So, okay. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to our year-end webinar. I'm Yvette, the Philanthropy Associate for the Give to Asia Friends Funds program. Joining me on this webinar and for the second half is Alison Witt, our marketing manager. So our agenda for today will cover two main topics. First is the US year-end giving season. Why is it important to the donors and what are the benefits for our partner organizations? Second is the year-end giving activities, like what are the upcoming initiatives that we have and recommendations that we have for our partners. So before we start, just some reminders. So this webinar is recorded and will be shared to all of the grantees and also internally to our team. And also the copy of the presentation will be shared. During this webinar, you can drop your questions through the chat box and we will address them during our Q&A session after the presentation. So, okay, let's start. So why do American donors care about the year-end giving? Well, number one, under the US tax law, donations to charitable organizations are eligible for tax benefits. The donors can deduct actually 100% of the donation amount to their reported income that year. So basically saying they are kind of saving on their taxes, on the taxes that they have to pay that year. And this is why the donors tend to give more during this time of year. And December 31 is the last day of the tax year. So if they want to get the benefit for that year, they should make the gift by the year end. So it's also because of traditions and the holiday seasons, which is also a factor for the year-end giving. So during this time, the donors are focused on giving to people in need, and this is also rooted and also in their religious traditions. So what is actually the criteria for a donation to be tax deductible? So the gift or donation should be donated to a registered 501(c)(3) charity for it to have the tax benefits. Our donors need the tax receipt for their documentation and filing. And this is where Give to Asia comes in. Given that we are a registered 501(c)(3) organization, we are able to issue the tax receipts to your donors. Through us, the donors are able to donate to the charities even outside of the US because of our focus. And in return, we can process these donations for them. So we also want to mention the important considerations for these donations for the charities. So your US Friends Fund with Give to Asia is actually a pooled fund. So donors across the globe can donate to your fund, but please do note that tax benefit is only applicable to US taxpayers. So for large donations, if the donor is unsure about their status or eligibility, it's best for them to check with an accountant or a tax professional who can assess them to be sure if they can receive the tax benefits for the donation that they want to give. In case you have non-US donors, you can also consider adding additional Friends Fund in our other locations. This is actually the advantage of having a partnership with Give to Asia. We have entities in Australia and Hong Kong that can process tax deductible gifts for donors based in those locations. We can also offer additional funds if you have donors in Europe and Canada, and the funds for these will be through our Myriad Alliance partners. So if you have donor leads in other countries outside the US, especially in the areas that I've mentioned, and you're thinking to expanding your fundraising to another location, please do reach out to our team and we will be happy to assist you and to check on the requirements because they may have different sets of requirements for each of those locations that you want to fundraise for. Another opportunity for fundraising that we want to share here is employer matching gifts. Just to note that this is not just during the year-end giving. This is available all year. But we also want to share this with you as you might find it helpful in your fundraising. So large companies in the US offer charitable gift matching to their employees. This can be a part of a benefit for them or through because of their own community connections campaign. So these big employers or companies who offer this use donation platforms that will process the donation and the gift matching, and they also have their own set of rules, focus area, and limitation. This is a benefit for the receiving charity organization since this is additional donation that can be doubled for them. So Give to Asia is actually have a partnership with Benevity. It is the leading employer matching platform. This is an advantage because once you are a Friends Fund partner, we can create a page in Benevity on behalf of your organization, and you can receive this matched gift into your fund. In previous years, through this partnership with Benevity, we were actually able to raise a significant amount for our partners and also for our own programs. So on this slide, this is actually an example of a previously created page for an organization under Give to Asia's project in Benevity. The format is actually very simple and it only requires basic information on the organization. And the content that we put here in Benevity is actually from the content that you submit to us initially when you start to onboard with the network. It's not as customized as the fundraising pages that we have housed on the Give to Asia website. Because as you know, that page we can do a little bit of customization by putting in some photos and putting in some videos and your feature campaign. So with the Benevity pages, it's not as customized as that. And another thing different with this platform is that we don't have the link to the pages that you can share, unlike the one that we have with the Give to Asia website, where once we publish the page, we can actually give you the link, and you can share it with your supporters and in your marketing materials. So the Benevita link is also different depending on the company portal. So the employees donating through Benevity through the portal of their company will just use the search tool in the platform. Basically, they just have to type in the name of your organization to be able to find your page and make the donation through Benevity. So the great thing about this is the visibility and additional donations for your organization that can actually help in your programs. So here's on this slide is a view of the portal for donors. So the employees that are working in a company, for example, Microsoft, they just need to log in to their Benevity account that is provided to them and search for a charity that they want to give to. Let's say they donate $100. This will then be matched by the company, and you will be able to receive double that amount. So that's going to be a big help in your fundraising and also in your programs. So that's actually the end of the first part of the presentation. And before I hand it over to Allison for the second part, I would like to remind everyone that you can input your questions in the chat box and we will address it later on in our Q&A session. Over to you, Allison.
Thanks, Yvette. So I'm going to just run through a couple of key takeaways for US giving trends for this season. And then we'll talk a little bit about what Give to Asia's plans are around Giving Tuesday and how you can partake in it, and a couple of just reminders and resources for our grantees. Yvette, if you want to go to the next slide. So Giving USA does an annual report on US giving trends, and I just want to point to a couple of really relevant pieces that are good to keep in mind. The US is still the number one ranked most charitable country in the world. 2023 was a whopping $557 billion in contributions. You can see that even though there is a massive run with inflation all over the world, and there were significant dips in donations to charities in those first 1 to 2 years after the initial COVID pandemic, it's on the rise again, and it's breaking records every year, even when adjusted for inflation. So the charity sector in the US is still incredibly strong. I also want to point out on this slide that while corporations and planned giving and foundations are all growing, the majority of giving from the US is not from that. This is mostly grassroots, small dollar individual donors making up the backbone of contributions. We can go to the next slide. So a couple of really relevant things to think about are just in these top areas, issue areas that people are contributing to, and the biggest growth areas. Foundations and public society benefit organizations are really they're making the biggest gains year over year. And one thing that's great about that is Give to Asia, and our Friends Fund program sits right in that sector. So we are really in the space that is getting the lion's share of growth, the lion's share of donations from individuals who are just interested in finding a trustworthy source to give to causes or organizations they care about. A couple of things also to note here are really just some of the biggest issue areas. Human services is a vague concept, but it can really incorporate things like social services, poverty reduction, and even things like women and children initiatives. So it's a really broad scoping sounding term, but it incorporates so many of our organization's works. The others are really more self-explanatory. We can go on to the next slide. So the other big point that I want to sort of hammer in on for US giving trends is about young donors. I think a lot of the time the philanthropy sector kind of has a static view of what American donors look like, and that's just not correct. The donor base is changing all of the time, and right now we're really seeing a significant shift. The baby boomer generation in America is like the wealthiest generation in the history of this country. And they are retiring, if not already retired. They are making plans for their estates. They are involving their younger generations in philanthropic activities. They are setting up inheritances and so on. So the donor base is shifting, and the younger generations, younger Gen X, millennials, are first of all coming into some financial stability. They're in their 30s and 40s. Many of them own a home and are much more stable and able to start getting involved with philanthropic work. Many of them are already coming into family wealth through inheritances. And they have different interests and different ways of giving. So don't think that what worked 10 years ago is going to work exactly the same now. The world is changing, the donor base is changing, and we need to change with it and meet donors where they're at. We'll get into this in a little bit, but I also want to mention here that this is why it's really important not to just stick with things like sending direct mails or emails to donors. You want to find them on social media. You want to find them in-person activities. You want to engage with them where they're at and where their interests lie. The last thing before we move on, I want to highlight is if your organization is not already doing some work in the planned giving space, finding ways for donors to set up bequests, that's definitely something you should look into. We can, provide more information on that if you ever want to just like reach out to the Friends Fund email and ask for resources on how to get that started. We're happy to provide that information. But again, because you have this massive generation that was the wealthiest generation in this country that is making plans for their wealth transfer to younger generations, you want to get in on that while they're planning and set up opportunities for them to make bequests to your organization. We can move on to the next slide. So for Giving Tuesday, I think most people are really familiar with this. It is a global trend at this point, but it really started in the US and is massive here. It's something that if someone never gives to charity all year round, they will give on Giving Tuesday. It comes right off of the tail of Thanksgiving, which is like one of our biggest holidays of the year. And it's immediately followed by a shopping holiday. So it's sort of like you meet and eat with your family, then you go out and you get a discount TV, and then you go out and you give to charity. So Giving Tuesday is a great initiative to take advantage of. We're going to have a lot of resources for this, or I should say we already have a lot of resources around this day that are available in the fundraising tools page that you guys all have access to, but I want to make special point of explaining our initiative on Giving Tuesday. So this is on December 3rd, 2024. We will be lifting our administrative fees for all contributions coming from the US to any Friends Fund partner that is set up through Give to Asia. So that means that if somebody gives you $5, you get all $5. If somebody gives you $10,000, we aren't taking a cent of that for any administrative costs. You're getting every cent of that contribution. And the reason why it's really great to try and take advantage of this is you can make the pitch to your donors that giving on Giving Tuesday, their donation is going to go just a little bit further. So we're doing this up to $50,000 on the day. If you are doing any plans or communications around Giving Tuesday, I highly recommend letting them know that letting your donor base know that they are going to get a little extra bang for their buck when giving through your Friends Fund page. We can go on to the next slide. So as I mentioned briefly before, we have a fundraising tools page. You are probably all very familiar with it. We have just made some significant updates to it. There are a lot more resources in there now and a lot of content that's been really updated for the current giving season. Now is the time to start planning. If you have not started already, get your butt over to the fundraising tools page, and you will see a very straightforward path for how you can make your plan, set up your tools, and get your process started for giving season. I would also highly recommend, if you haven't done it in a minute, now is also a great time to update your Friends Fund page. If you have more recent photos, if you have recent program outcomes. Donors today are, especially in America, are incredibly results driven. They like to see what the actual tangible impacts of their dollars are. So when you can say that with $5,000, we were able to, fund these programs or get these 3 kids through school or build this farm, there are just so many ways to really demonstrate that value with your partners on your Friends Fund page. Make sure you are just putting your best foot forward with anyone who's visiting your page or discovering it in our directory. Of course, you'll want to start your communications and really just reminding anyone in your donor base that you are hear that this is giving season and you're ready to engage with them. I will pass it back over to Yvette to wrap us up.
Okay, before we go over to the Q&A portion, just a few reminders to our partners. So part of our end of year activities, which we do every year, is encouraging you, the partners, to empty your funds. There's going to be an upcoming communication on this that we will send out in the next few weeks. So for those of you who have an available balance of 5,000 or more, you may send in a distribution request for you to access your funds with us. And the deadline to submit that is on December 13. And as you all know, we already have a new fund portal, so that distribution request should be submitted on that new fund portal that we have. So on this slide, I've put in the link to that. So you can log in and check your balance. And if you haven't set up your profile for the new fund portal, please do reach out to our team so we can assist you on that. I also have here in this slide the links to the newly updated fundraising tools page that Allison mentioned earlier. We also have in here um a new space where we give information on how to be featured in our marketing pieces. I know a lot of partners are asking about those features, so you can find information on that there in the fundraising tools page. And I also have in here a link to our main Give to Asia fund pages in our website. You can just search here the name of your organization if you don't have the link with you, and just check your page and see if there's anything that you want to update and that, and reach out to us, and we're happy to make those updates on your behalf. And finally, I also put in here the email address of our team. Feel free to contact us anytime for any concerns or inquiries that you might have. Um, I don't see any questions that we have in our chat box. So, um, for those who are connected in this webinar, let us know if you have any questions. But if none, then I think we can end our webinar for today. And thank you everyone for joining us. And we hope you'll have a good rest of your day and good weekend as well. Thank you all.